What am I to do?
Welcome to He Said, She Said Razor Branding Podcast with Michael Russo and Jackie Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandrusso.com.
Michael, joining us today, Dave Behar he is a light. He is a talent. I think his insights are awesome, and not just because he agreed with me a couple times, because I think he agreed with you more. But he's a two-time best-selling author. He is a leader. He understands branding and strategic alliances. He's involved in industry as well as sports. He's just an all-around accomplished guy, and the whole conversation I thought was a blast.
It was. I was trying to find a cool way to put in ion because he has all his little phrases,
Right.
ionistic or whatever, but nothing works. So I just bailed on it. No, I did enjoy him too, actually. It was a very interesting conversation, although we totally got off track and we talked more about football and sports and because that's kind of what he's involved in. And so we picked his brain on some things that were topical in our minds, but it was a very good conversation. And yeah, it was enjoyable. So like I said, I think people would enjoy the conversation as well. It was thought-provoking. Let's put it that way.
I like it. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so glad you're here. All right. Usually I get all prepped. Our PR person, Christina, who coordinates all these things, sends me, your tax assessment records, your any sort of police arrests, any sort of jail time, your financials. I've got all these one sheets.
I just got out of jail.
Well, see, that's maybe why she doesn't have it yet, because you just got out. But today I've been left to fend for myself. So I went straight to LinkedIn and thought, let's see what the world knows about Dave. And I want to, if you don't mind, start with what has got to be one of the best titles ever, Chief Executive Athlete.
Yeah. Okay.
Dave, tell us. How are you the Chief Executive Athlete?
Well, yeah, it all started on the playing field. I'm still playing, but it's about differentiation. Of course, I'm a former and current athlete. I'm leading, a few great companies and staying active. And everyone who's on top of a company is a CEO. And for me, I am, of course, CEO. Let's call it formally, but also chief executive athlete. So we got a playbook, and we have an open playing field that happens to be global. And here we are. And so I definitely blend background in sports and certainly current in the business of sports. So it's pretty fitting. And of course, we're ready to go at all times and for the games and the action ahead and activation.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, you're also a scientist.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting because we have a portfolio of companies, and one of the companies that's evolving for sure is in the world of all things intuition, which does include some level of scientists, mathematicians, et cetera. And so Scion is more or less definition is as a leader. And that's also, I get really hands-on when it comes to some of the scientific stuff, even though, of course, I'm not a scientist in the sense of those that went to school for it and don't practice in it, but definitely deploy a number of scientists, mathematicians to get done what we do, because it's a fascinating world out there in the world of intuition. I think we all have it. And the study of it's fascinating, but there's so much proven. And that is sort of a basis for some of the things that we do, both from my leadership, but also just business in general and life and certainly in general. So,
awesome.
Well, I'm reading. I am also on your LinkedIn page now too, and I want to know who wrote this copy because that's awesome. I love it. But I have to read it out loud. If you haven't read it, you need to go find it, and it's under the Scientist tab or experience. So. And I'm saying this right, Behar, not Bihar, not Behar, right?
Behar, Spanish
All right.
E. Yeah.
All right. Behar Brands is a collection of strategically aligned, socially connected brands producing collaborative, daily, positive outcomes via focused purpose and conversion-driven performance and smart cross-functional system-based workflow. That alone has me like, okay, I'm not even sure what half of it is, but I'm interested. Like I'm really into that, right? And then we go
Yeah.
further. What is the vibe of your tribe? Is your brand next? We serve as founders, co-founders, fractional C-level, executive producers, and provide early-stage investment, brand portfolio and full-service business development, licensing and leadership edge, brand activation agency services for personal distribution, disruptive brands, leagues, athletic properties, NIL, events, categories, leaders, and thought leadership, utilizing media, digital real estate, mobile, and black. I'm going to stop there. But it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, I get it, man. That's energy. I mean, I'm all in. Tell me more.
There's a portfolio of companies, some that we certainly founded. And I don't like using the word I, even though you're going to know and see a lot of Ion in the vernacular, because our key media brand is Ion, of course. And that's thousands of local channels growing. And, there's beautiful road there, but we get our hands dirty. We don't have a shingle up as an agency, but when there is a brand or an entrepreneur that needs help, we want to help them succeed. And so the enablation side of things plays a role in helping them either get into our network. That means we're then marketing them across either channels or events or leagues that we're involved in as either a brand partner or some kind of vendor supplier. But so it gets a little complicated. And often when it comes to articulating some of the things that we do based upon some of those relationships, because inevitably what happens is as people discover, let's say my background or some of our folks' backgrounds, it's been in producing great companies, recognized companies in different industries, but still with a semi-focus in sports, health, nutrition, certainly media and technology. And then they go, wow, how can we do this? And how can you help us get there? So it spawns a lot of things. I really enjoy playing in that space of helping multiple companies succeed versus just having an engine or a platform that just enables, like a social media platform that just register and log in and utilize the platform. I've got that old school in me, and certainly new school, that helps drive what we do. And so some of it is, I'm not going to use really that word distraction, but these are kind of good distractions, these companies that we're involved in, and still try to remain focused, and certainly with organization, being able to organize and not go too far out in doing too many things at once. But when you're in the enablation business, then and it continues to grow based on our technology and our foundations, and certainly our production and distribution business, which is related to video and shows and stuff like that. I'm having lots of fun, and at the same time have to remain focused. It's a people business, and relationships are everything.
Well, kind of like what you said earlier, and we talked about this with one of our previous podcast guests, and it was the fact that you're there to help people, and kind of whatever it takes to do that. And Jackie talks a lot about that too. It's like, if you come from that basis of really wanting to help other people and helping people succeed, you're eventually going to find your path, through leadership, through business, and the windfalls come back in. And I think, again, as the leader of our agency, we've had a windfall of that because of that approach. And sometimes it's a long play, and it takes time to nurture those seeds, but they definitely come back when you come at it from that, whatever you're doing, when you come at it from that perspective, and it sounds like what you guys are doing, you're all in, like you're in the boat with people. And if they need a whole field, you fill it. And if they need a row, you row. If they need whatever you need to do, you're adjusting using your expertise to fill the needs, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you guys are very centered with great history in the brand business and brand building and helping brands succeed. And as you know, it all starts with the brand. But there's those instances, as you know, as you've discovered perhaps every day, depending on who you're in front of. Sometimes those companies or those individuals, because we can talk about personal brands too, of course, but their brands are not necessarily either aligned or they don't appear right or they don't talk right. Their brand personality is off or something like that. So for better for worse, that's things that I notice. And if we're going to get behind something, then we want to help make it right. So if that's an indication of how we get involved in deals, whether it be through investment or investment, or simply because again, we don't really operate as an agency. I know I can say, yeah, come into our agency world and you'll become a client that way. But this is really helping those brands succeed. And hopefully they have the talent in-house or work with great people like yourself to help them get there to then jump into Ion for that matter to help everyone succeed and do whatever we can have them financially succeed. So,
Dave, I'd like to talk a little bit about your NIL work, if that's okay. I'm curious in what you've been doing. I was fortunate enough to be involved in the launch of the NIL program for the University of Louisiana, which is our alma mater, and
it's all your fault.
Well, it's actually just to defend myself because this is going to be a fun conversation. Michael and I have very different opinions about it. Our university pumped the brakes and didn't do anything for 8 months and ended up way behind the 8 ball, which is why, and in their defense, they just weren't sure how it was going to all shake out. We're a mid-major. The Sun Belt isn't known for, massive NIL deals. And so they had the luxury of pumping and pausing and waiting and seeing. And then once they realized it was really going to trickle down, it wasn't just going to be an SEC situation. We obviously had to get involved, and we built something focused on education first. It stood for University Learning, Training, Resource Advantage. We brought in subject matter experts. We trained all 417 student athletes on how to invest money, how much it costs you ultimately, long-term compounding interest and all that. If you go buy something today at 20 years old, instead of investing that money, what it would turn into at 40, 50, 60 years old. And we brought in experts on tax. I mean, we really did our best, I think, to set them up for success. And then I was a part of about 250, maybe 300 NIL deals, small scale, baby deals compared to some of the others we hear about. But, we've seen how it's snowballed and gone from there. So what's your take on it? I was about to say,
you started there, and then the collective came in, and all of a sudden they stopped having the classes and the lessons, and it's
a little different now.
Yeah.
But what's been your experience? How do you feel about it?
It's almost like a whole nother show, right? I mean, it's really impressive what you've just explained, what you did and went through the process. And what's wild about it, if you think about it for a moment, of course, your work will have impact on those student athletes for the rest of their lives, right? And hopefully to manage themselves right. Hopefully they had some success on the field, therefore the NIL kicking in at whatever level to help them succeed or even get into the school, whatever the case is. But I got to tell you, again, I'm a purist. I realize, there's compensation that, well, of course, on the professional side, it's a free market. I think the collegiate side, and I've got this background in collegiate that's interesting. It was definitely well before NIL was even an infant, if you will. But I'm not a big fan of it because it's so out there that without, I'm not going to suggest true government involvement, but real protocols, real qualification, things like that, it becomes a mess. It immediately depletes what is some of the smaller universities, regardless of their academic capability. It's true that it can size up depending what, let's say if it's a D1 situation or a certain conference. You say Sun Belt. I mean, I have a fondness for Sunbelt. And at the same time, it's like, okay, so how does Sunbelt and then the member institutions play a role in competing with the neighboring SEC or whatever, conference you're either aligning with? And then it becomes an entirely different competitive environment that literally can bankrupt athletic departments, especially based upon, I realize there's the collectives and such, and private folks that just deal directly, but it becomes problematic. I realize universities are businesses, and they have to remain competitive to recruit students, and for that matter, not everyone's on scholarship. But again, I'm on the side of, okay, attending a university, here's the scholarship. Here might be some level of financial benefit, but you combine that with the transfer portal and combining with other shenanigans and tactics, it's a crazy place to manage. And no wonder why some extremely great talent has left college sports. And I realize it's also how people could be attracted because there's just more money. And at the same time, but it is the movement of the athletes based upon then going from one school to another because they got a better deal. And it's everyone, you could say, well, they're an entrepreneur. It's true. But in this case, where's the real framework? Where's the real framework? So college sports, as you know, is changing every day now. And especially in the money sports. So,
You're
and
making Michael so happy. He has all this ammunition now the next time we have this fight, which is every Saturday.
We
it's
need
a
some
catch.
guardrails. We need some guidelines. We need
Exactly.
something.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 because again, you can say, "Well, no, hey Dave, if you're into entrepreneurship and you want people to succeed, and it doesn't mean they've not earned a certain level of success in terms of, well, maybe they've done everything they could to be that absolute best athlete, to be marketable and such, and of course, as a program, no matter the university, that keyword, Michael, guardrails. That's a great word because at this point, it then becomes who knows. And if you're writing the business plan for this and you can't, effectively carry out the outcome and who is even leading it, and I'm not trying to be a naysayer here. It's a matter of effective management, realizing that everyone now is going through a process of learning about it and doing their best to either keep up or be ahead of it. But
It feels like
where's
it's
the commission?
overnight. It feels like it's
What's
overnight.
that?
Like one day it was like the dirty secret nobody talked about. Like, of course, we're
Yes.
playing players, come on my grass. I'll give you $50, whatever. There was stuff going
Right.
on, right? Even on the
Right.
smaller levels, I think.
Yeah.
But now it's like, man, overnight, it's like
Yes.
0 to 100. And
Yeah.
there's $1 million contracts, and I mean, opting out of this and that, and the stuff that happened in Florida with the quarterback, and then Michigan stealing
Yeah.
LSU's quarterback. I mean, all these things going on that are
He
like,
wasn't LSU's quarterback. LSU didn't own him at the time. Come on now. That's
whatever.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's true. So listen, there's the pros and cons and the catch-22 of all of it. I'm not in favor of NIL. It's just the management thereof. So it becomes it's competitive, but they're within certain parameters because you're then, yeah, a school may not own that athlete, but that school is still, let's call it, at least originally investing in a scholarship and a process of even legacy considerations of either family or something else. And then where is that in integrity versus just, well, somebody offered me an extra X amount of dollars. And if that's what college sports is meant to be, let's call it a true minor leagues in relation to the professional leagues. Let's just call that, I don't know, kettle black, call it what it is, and go down that track and have it be, let's kind of call it governed accordingly without major restrictions. and including what might be in the case of football, a football commissioner, commissioner of not necessarily
Michael would like to
NCAA.
offer the job to Peyton Manning, just so you know.
He'd be
That's his
great.
candidate.
It'd be
But
great.
yeah, there is, and then there's all sorts of options there. Then you take a look at flow charts and stuff like that to where, okay, if this is long term, let's have infrastructure. And I like to use the word I infrastructure, but we're not formally in the NIL, uh, the aspects of it. We definitely touched on the edges of it, but
Right.
anyway.
Well, in the early stages, though, there was even that nuance of, you got to earn it. Like you're going to show up and do a podcast or do a social media post or sell a jersey or whatever. You're going to make an appearance. There was
You're
an
talking about the athlete?
illusion of getting paid for something. Now it's just cutting checks. You're going
Well,
to sign here. I'm going to give you a $3 million contract.
yeah.
For
You
some
know what?
players, not all.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. I mean, on the other hand, it's true that colleges are then marketing their teams, marketing their athletes, and then they are doing what you're talking about, just not quote unquote paying the athletes. So at not one point did I say, hey, you can't pay athletes, you can't take care of the athletes in one way or the other. And I'm kind of just being vague about this,
Yeah.
almost on purpose. But again, whether that word is guardrails or not, it's really, I think, a matter of this is the brand that we're creating. Here's the brand principles. Here's the style guide, those things that you do to manage a brand. Now, how does this get managed versus a renegade collective or a very ambitious athletic department with a couple of very high level donors? And God bless them for participating and helping what probably is their university, their alma mater. But at the same time, where does this really go? And so you want to project out, just like, hey, why are we creating this company? Well, we want to exit or we want to disrupt or we want, whatever that is in terms of part of the business plan and strategy. I just think that NIL, going back to the basics of it, is there just needs to be a far better plan ahead for it. And then, hey, I guess it's a matter of how things are shared and how things are promoted. And I think that players moving around multiple times in a 4-year or 5-year, sports career, I just think that there needs to be consistency. Then where is the that school camaraderie and the proudness of, if you're
Yeah.
indeed going to commit to a university and to that as your, at least one of your key teams before you may or may not go pro. So
Right.
Well, we have this thing called the 5 R's of branding that we wrote a long time ago, and it's like these principles of branding. And one is like, you don't own your brand; the consumer owns the brand. Like,
yes,
you can try to dictate how to feel about it, but eventually they're going to tell you what it is because it's based on how they feel about it. Successful brands, there's ownership there. And just to tie it back into this conversation, even I think everybody can relate to some degree, but how is this affecting? The football as a whole, college football, for example, and it seems like it hadn't affected it at all. Like nobody, for as much damage as I think it's done, people are
yeah,
more fired up as ever because now they're feeling like the smaller teams are like, man, we're going to be competitive now. We have a shot here. I think some of the blue bloods are a little like, oh shit, because you can see the playoffs this year. I mean, there's a lot of, you know,
Parody.
yes, going on right now. And I think that you can only
well,
say that's because of the money, right? I would think, but
you
I'm
think
not an
so?
expert. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I look at so, maybe not. And I know that there's folks that might be watching, listening, and saying, no, 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 I know how it's done. I know that this is the case, and somewhat that's how you're referring to it. I think that there would be, the Cinderella teams anyway. There would, the smaller market teams that you see that rise even more in hoops, in
Yeah.
basketball and March Madness. But at the same time, I'm not going to say the jury's out. Sure, a seemingly smaller or institution that was not maybe competitive or competitive as much and is frequent may now be far better funded and now can compete. It's like, how long does that last? I mean, it comes back to also ROI because let's just say I'm throwing $1 million into, university, and that's just part of, let's call it a collective, whatever it is, because in so many ways, $1 million is just not enough. What is it for? One player, or no, it's going to now buy meals for all the players in all the sports for
Hmm.
however long. But when does that money run out from anybody? And so while it could be theoretically, you could get marketing benefit as a company, as a brand, um, it's like, well, where does that fit in relation to everything else related to, again, the collective numbers? And it could work. It's working to the extent you just don't know what the reports are because you may not be hearing about them, and it could be that who's really talking about them and reporting on it, not to get into the journalistic value of it all, right? Because it's all about the information flow. So we as, let's say, common folk or fans or whatever, or for that matter, decision makers can now make decisions, accordingly.
All right, I've let y'all talk NIL for quite some time, and it's a fascinating topic. I love being a part of it.
You brought it up. You brought it up,
I
by the way.
did. No, we're not done with the topic. I'm just going to weigh in now with a dissenting view. A couple of things to think about. One, as long as roster caps are not changed, 85 active players, 130 or 32, whatever it is on the total roster, then the greedy big schools can only get so many players. So to
Yeah,
me,
sure.
it is a self-management system in the sense that one school can't go buy all the talent. There is a limit of how many people they can purchase for their team. Two, our son played college baseball, D3 level. Nobody was throwing a check with a comma at him for an NIL deal. The boy had to
Except his
wash
mom
his
and
own
daddy.
clothes.
Except his mom and daddy.
We didn't even send him checks with commas. And he had to wash his own uniform. So it was a different level than what we're talking about. But the point that I make to Michael all the time is the coach that recruited him, two coaches recruit him. The really the guy who really came after him and wooed him and courted him and we loved him was great. He was the assistant coach, and then the head coach was old school, 40-year career, been to the World Series a few times, just well respected, principles. I'm going to make a man out of him because that matters way more than him being a player kind of a guy. So he was brought in by two real quality coaches. Well, the younger assistant coach was there for a season, and then he left to take a job somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And the point that I make to Michael all the time about athletes who hop, our son didn't. He stuck it out the whole time. But should that coach have turned around and said to Jackson, hey, do you want to come play for me? I've got a starting spot for you. Jackson be crazy not to follow the guy that recruited him.
Yeah.
If a new coach that had been brought in had not wanted a 74-mile-an-hour sidearm, because that's a unique thing on baseball diamonds.
Yeah.
I don't know that Jackson would have been able to continue to play like he did. And so would I want his career just to be over because the next coach didn't see the hustle and the heart? So I'm not opposed to an athlete being able to move when the conditions change. We let the coaches go.
Yeah.
Why are we handcuffing the kids and inhibiting their future? I think the real mistake here is that mid-majors, which is where my heart is, haven't figured out the way to express this message.
Yes.
You can
Okay.
go sit behind the superstar on the Power 5 team, or you can be the superstar on the Group of 5 team. And
Yeah.
anybody who's got a future ahead, who sees that now they're still going to go take a $5 million deal if they can get it. They deserve it. Good for them. But for everybody else, they should start. That's how the mid-majors should get them and keep them. And yes, accept the fact that you're going to make them a star for a year. They're going to pad their stats. They're going to win some games for you. And then they're going to move up the ladder. It's like the European soccer leagues now. They're going to get promoted. And the ones who don't fare so well, they've been sitting the bench, they're going to get relegated. And it's a year-by-year thing. And that's how I think it should be, and everybody wins.
I think, first of all, well said.
Thank you.
Really. And then you're really referring to
Dave, you're killing me. Don't
Well,
tell
no,
her
no,
that.
hang on. Bear with me, Michael.
Oh, it's coming around. He's pulling a McAfee right now. He's going to act like he's picking me, but he's going to end with the other guy. Go ahead.
No, that's not true. But just remember, we're talking in a way about the transfer portal
Mhm.
versus NIL. I
True.
realize how closely linked they are because both are these mechanisms for recruiting and et cetera. I just think that there needs to be, well, you kind of refer to, let's call it a coach leaving and maybe taking the player with them or having the player try to follow or whatever it is.
Right.
How many times does that need to happen or can that happen and should happen? It's almost like make believe you're a fan of team XYZ and you want to know the players so you can follow them. You can yourself invest in even season tickets or whatever it is in order to be a great supporter of either the athletic program or the university. And so I say limit the number of times that athlete can make their move because it really is that investment back and forth either way. I mean, don't forget that a college scholarship costs some money, and so that is a great base form of payment. And then as far as whatever else from there, great. But that's not also the only thing related to why somebody's going to then go through the transfer portal. And so I think for the sake of not necessarily time here, but those are both, they're separate, but also the blend. And what is the process by which a university, let alone a fan base, gets behind an athlete in a program that, is driven by what at that point? Because at one point, you do hear those things, those instances of some of these athletic programs have to just literally eliminate sports and eliminate other things because of the challenges related to even some of the larger universities. Are they going to be outwardly telling people how much money they may be losing? They may be gaining, depending on how you look at it, but it is a business. So let's put it this way. It's like, yeah, I think that it's not like they're not engaging in business development practices at different levels. It just comes down to, and I want to be very, whatever you want to call it, cognizant of all the pieces of the puzzle related to the new process of college sports. And in a way, it's not new. This thing has been going on for then years in its preparation for where we are today. So I just hope organizationally that it has better implementation. So it's understood that it's now a far more competitive business, no matter if you're, mid-tier, mid-major, whatever division, 1, 2, 3, double A. And those universities moving back and forth, which is not unusual between either conferences, but when it comes to the athletes, if they can make money, if they can have them endorsements, great, as long as it's understood. They're just there basically for 4 years rather than, lifetime. And are they an alum of 4 schools, 3 schools, 2 schools, or 1? I did a little bit of community college work, getting some, GE out of the way, but I'm a proud San Diego State Aztec. and,
Oh,
and
there's a bowl game I'd like to discuss with you, but go ahead.
okay, ready. Anyway, so, again, it's like, okay, I now, my allegiance is to this school, and thank God, because, there's great things of sticking around and no matter what level.
Right. And I think that's fair. I think that, this is going to work itself out as everything does. And, people are going to spend a lot of time talking about it and getting their panties in a bunch, as people do, because change is hard.
Yeah.
I am still bemoaning the fact that the Olympics are not all amateur. I don't understand when that happened. I loved the fact that the Olympics were 100% amateur sport and there
Yeah.
were no professions involved. And then, we lose one basketball game and all of a sudden
Yeah.
all the Olympics is now paid athletes.
Yeah. I think it's really the definition, of, again, Michael's use of guardrails, but it's what's the definition, and then maybe there needs to be even though every country has different rules and regulations of pro, amateur, et cetera, but
Right.
as long as
Well,
it's understood who
in a
is involved,
capitalist society, I don't think we are fond of price fixing.
right?
And in this environment, if we follow the NFL's model of, a cap on the total amount of salaries, your group of five schools are never going to compete, at the Power Four level. It's just not going to
Yeah,
happen. So
right.
now all of a sudden those divides, now we've set a number and everybody knows where they fall because there's just no
Hmm.
way. Yeah,
Sure.
I want to say most of the group of five schools and their collectives, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in the Power Four, it's hundreds of millions of dollars. So
Correct.
it's night and day.
But what's going
That's
to
right.
happen is you're going to have those, and they've talked about it. I mean, again, everything I hear, I'm not an advocate either way, really, to be honest with you, but I'm not a passionate sports fan like Jackie is
You're
over
a
there.
purist, Michael. You're a
Yes, I am.
purist
I am.
who
But
occasionally
Michael, I
roots for the
like
wrong
that.
team.
I like that word passionate. It's got ion right in the middle of it.
it does. Nice.
It does.
But they, if the top, the Ohio States, Alabamas of the world, they form their own super conference, right? And they have their own media deals and their own stuff. And I look at it like here, like we even in our small area, we have people smaller than us. We have Nicholls State down the road. We have
McNeese,
and
La
we feel like
Tech, ULM.
and we have a proudness of, well, we're here, they're there, and then the next
Yeah.
up is this, the next up is that. There's all these tiers, right? But McNeese can go and win the College World Series or the National Football Championship, and it's like, oh, that's cute, but it's still not the national championship. It's not the big, so every other school that competes, and it's like, look, I've coached sports. I've been involved with sports. I've coached my son, and I used to tell the kids all the time,
High
like
school football and high school baseball state championships. Michael,
the
toot your horn.
championships.
Come on
Yeah.
now.
Awesome.
But I told them, I said, because they went to a small school, it was an all boys school, and I said, don't let anybody ever downplay this, because it's still it's hard to go undefeated. It's hard to win championships, no matter what league you're in. Like, that's the card you were dealt, and
Yeah.
that's something to be proud of. At the same time, it wasn't a 4A state football championship in high school. There's no way. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, they have bigger budgets, bigger teams, and bigger this and bigger. They played in the Superdome. We played in the field. I mean, there's always going to be that comparison. So, again, branding, emotional connections. What do you think about things? Those things matter, and all these decisions that are being made and everything that's happening is going to affect the psyche of how everybody processes this stuff. And all of a sudden, we're going to start. I think we're going to start putting it in categories and saying, okay, well, this is who we are. We may have thought we were that team, like, oh, we could have done this maybe, but you're never going to get that opportunity because it's going to be cut off from you.
Right. I mean, again, I think it just, in a way, maybe goes back to the purity. Um, we all may have affinity to not just our school, but our conference, and then the pathway to going into a championship event, conference championship, let alone what might be a college football playoff or whatever for March Madness. But again, we would then have affinity to that path, which goes back to, again, the purity of even students staying with, these universities. So you kind of know the players on the scorecard, and you get behind them the best you can, just like you would at the professional level.
Right.
Professionally, you don't have the players jumping around as much just because there's much more of a framework.
Well, and there's the beauty to it. I mean, we talked about our son earlier.
And they're all brands. Each of
Yeah.
those players are their own brands, of course, but
Well, and again, went to a D3 school, Mississippi. It was Millsaps University, but I watched these kids play ball over there, and they were playing for a different kind of love of the game. They were trying to hang on to one more year. They weren't there. None of them had maybe one had prospects of getting to the next level, but that was it.
yeah,
Like this, they were playing for one more season. That was it. Every time they walked in the field, every time they stepped out of the dugout, it was like a pure love of the game, and they played hard. They played well.
yeah,
There was good quality athletics going on there. It just wasn't with the fastest guy. Like, the guy that threw the fastest in that whole league was probably low 90s, maybe upper 80s, and that was considered like lethal at that level, which is
Right.
still very hard to hit if you know how to pitch. But there was no 95 throwers. There was no, what I'm saying? Like those guys are going to get more. They're going to go to the next level. They're going to do all these different things. But, and I don't know what the point of that is other than the purity of things. We talk about authenticity and branding. We talk about being, genuine and reflective. And sometimes when you go to a field like that and there's 20 people there watching the game versus 300 or 3,000, and the players are out there actually doing their own field work, and they're, they're raking before the games, and they're carrying their own equipment, and they're washing their own clothes and carrying their own cleats.
Yeah.
There's something beautiful about that.
Yeah, it's what they signed up for, and it's
Yeah.
no matter their level of talent, they're there then to as part of their lives for their own enrichment and taking care of their capabilities as an individual and as an athlete. And I think it's very special. And I hope that doesn't go away or just discourage people away from the game. And let's not forget, not like you have an aspiration of being a professional athlete. Let's just say MLB, and such a thing called triple A, double A, single A ball. And it's like, not that you want to stay at that level forever, but it's the tiers by which you are achieving. And I mean, reaching even double A, single A, whatever it is as an athlete. And for that matter, you can relate it to other sports naturally, but it's an achievement. So then it's a matter of, you in this for the real money, or you just carrying out your capabilities and way until you get into other businesses or whatever it is besides the business of sport.
Right.
So,
All right, Dave, I feel like I didn't mean to hijack us and derail us this much. I really wanted to talk about you and your books, but anytime I can dig into somebody's expertise in these subjects, I'm fascinated by them. So I appreciate you being so willing to talk about it.
my pleasure. Likewise. You guys are awesome.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. All right, I know we've got to wrap up a little soon because I'm trying to be cognizant of time, but I'd be remiss if we didn't take a minute to talk about your two-time #1 best-selling Amazon authorship. So tell us about your books and tell the people how to find them and why they should go subscribe and buy right now.
Okay. So, it's just the Peak Performance Series. I was more or less asked as one of the experts in both leadership and also entrepreneurship, to be a co-author in both of those books, and they both definitely became bestsellers. And real proud of that. It was a collective group, and you just pop into Amazon and type in mindset and peak performance or my name, and you'll find those books. There's more literary pieces, coming forward. Like it's exciting, but those are some good books and with a great group of people. I'm proud of them, and I like winning. Don't like to have people lose, but I like winning and being ending up on top, because often that's a gauge of success. So there you go.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And how about finding you on social media so they can follow you and get all your great info that you are sharing on such a regular basis?
Well, it's interesting because fundamentally, not going to open up another part of the conversation to, how I even feel about social media, because social media is fabric across the board with every age group, et cetera. So I don't promote over other forms of social media other than our events and our networks doing that versus me personally. In some ways, I should be just pushing Dave Behar, find me at these different, you can look me up that way. You're not going to find a lot because there's not a lot of active posting. There's a lot of posting for what I direct, excuse me, and produce behind the scenes, including leagues and events that we do, which include those teams and those sports staffs that do that. So you could type me in any one of the social networks, and chances are you'll find me one way or the other, particularly in the work I do versus singular approach. There's some little quotes out there. If you go onto like Instagram, and there's a little bit of that. And you know what, quite frankly, it does open up a brand conversation. I know it's a long-winded answer to the very simple question. Here's, my handle is to make sure that somebody and this is advice to others to not have your name taken by somebody else. And so that's part of the original strategy of even looking up Dave Behar on Instagram or LinkedIn. And I just say, go to LinkedIn. I mean, my world's definitely evolved around business. Business is fun, as well as social. So just check me out on LinkedIn, and that'd be the good way to go.
Awesome. So anybody want to pick a fight with you about NIL? That's where they should head.
Sure. I don't want to even fight about it. It's like I don't necessarily, yeah,
It's a great topic because it involves, and
subject.
if you're a fan or you enjoy sports or whatever it may be,
Yeah,
it's an intoxicating topic because it's so volatile, it's so in motion, and it's
big
so much
time.
change. I mean, how much change have we had to? If you don't like change, this is not a good time for you to be involved in that. I mean, all the history, like we're SEC people, right? So in that part of the
Yes.
country, okay, we're not. Okay, I'm sorry, Jackie. No, we're not.
Be careful.
We're in that part of the world. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
they say it means more, whatever. This is all about tradition, Bear Bryant, you go back 100 years, whatever. Supposedly invented football, et cetera, et cetera. I know we didn't, but all this passion about that sport, and now it's being just flipped on its head,
Yeah.
and I think the SEC schools are like waking up from a nap right now going, what the hell happened this year?
Okay, so you're going to like this, or you may not like, and the SEC folks. Just remember, the SEC is in the Sun Belt.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Jackie's going to use that
Oh
forever
my God, I'm
now.
going to use it so much. Dave, I'll quote you every time, but I'm about to say that every day.
Oh no,
You
she's
can-
already
you can
ordering
use
the
it.
shirts. She's typing right
You
now.
can use
Get
it
me this
royalty
shirt.
free. Wait, I didn't
Okay.
hear that. What was that?
No, I said Jackie's already texting right now. Order these shirts now.
You can use it royalty free.
Thank
And
you.
the only thing is that, remember, there could be confusion because SEC is going to want a royalty as well as Sun Belt Conference.
Fair.
Sun Belt is a region. It's
Correct.
a part of this country. And then you got to think about, well, okay, is that First Amendment stuff or what?
Right.
Public
Well,
domain.
the Sun Belt school that is the most winning of conference championships is the University of Louisiana. Go Cajuns.
There you
We've won
go.
more football
Oh, the
and
Raging
baseball
Cajuns.
and softball. The Raging Cajuns, thank you. Yeah, so we're the most dominant force in the Sun Belt. So.
Beautiful. Love
Yes,
it.
thank you, Dave. Thank you. Listen, I appreciate your time and your insight. This has been a great chat. You've been an awesome guest, and we
Likewise.
appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.
Thanks for having me. You guys are awesome, and it's been fun. Let's do it again.
For sure.
We'll see you soon.
That's it. We're out.
And we're out. That's it. Dave, I
All
hope it
right.
was painless.
That was great.
We really don't know where the conversation is going to go, so I appreciate you
Yeah.
bearing with us.
No, it's good.
Okay.
It's interesting. I'm pleased to know well, first of all, your business, and I'd love to know more about, some of the endeavors and also before that got you even into the agency business in the first place. But I was going to say about the Sun Belt, there was a time I actually was going to do a deal in the early stages of Ion Sports, a Sun Belt conference deal.
Oh,
and,
wow.
and looking for those opportunities still, and even though it's even more competitive, the competitive nature of network business and what is a network and biggest rights, rights fees as much as you can. And that was also part of the whole Pac-12 dissolvement. And that's its own conversation, which anyway, the point is that I'm curious if you've with all your passion, how much you've gone down the road of either representing clients and brands that are in that collegiate space or in the sports space, that helps, it's part of the gratification of being in the business.
Jackie, Jackie talked about having a sports division at one time, actually, and we had somebody that was going to run it. He was the former athletic director or associate athletic director here at the university, and
Mhm.
he ended up kind of getting cold feet and went into the financial sector instead of taking that
Okay.
risk. But we were like 2 steps away from going after that kind of work.
We also, though, preach all the time about being niche and being an expert in your space. And when I, at that time, as we, got all the way down the line on the deal with Rob before we signed contracts, and he got this opportunity, which, to his credit, he became a mortgage broker in
Done very well.
2019, and so he has done very well. Very well for himself. He absolutely made the right choice, and so did we. And so when I look at, we started the agency in 2001, and so in
Yeah.
our 24 years, our area of expertise is strategic brand planning and being proactive. We have a process called Razor Branding that we do. It's got 4 core elements: focus, promise, connection, harmony. Who are you talking to? Why should they pay attention? What are you going to say to them? And where and when are we going to put that message so it connects? Simple.
Yeah.
And so we
It's
take
in,
that and sorry, go ahead.
well, no, I'm listening, of course.
Okay.
And that's indeed a key part of business. It's just, I mean, you've displayed all this incredible intellect on, college, on NI, NIL is a topic. Of course, I'm sure you could talk about anything, and also your involvement in those things. And I'm just then curious about even the incubation of existing or young brands, stuff like that, as clients or potential clients,
Right.
and bringing what you bring, but also in what might be an area of categorical expertise or industry expertise. That's all. And I
Well,
was
and that's the
curious,
thing
like,
is for us, when I look at what we've done, it's B2B. That's where we've excelled. It's industry, it's manufacturing, it's professional services.
yeah,
Well,
That's where
because
we've
it
had the
pays
biggest
better. It
home
pays
runs.
better.
I was
sure,
going to
you're
say that
right.
part
Yeah.
last. I wanted to sound very altruistic first, Michael, and it pays better. And there's less competition. All the agencies are out there chasing the retail clients and doing Super
Yeah,
Bowl spots. And we're
right.
over here helping these industrial manufacturing, boring clients
Making them look
grow.
sexy.
And,
Yeah.
and we make them look sexy, and I have
Yeah,
fun doing it, and it keeps my team inspired. It's great.
yeah,
But when we started to get bigger, and we couple razor branding with a fractional marketing team. So it's a retainer based flat fee retainer to
of course.
implement the plan. So clients don't have to have all this staff and they get everything they need. It's a really good system.
Yeah,
But so we got big enough that all of a sudden when smaller clients came a calling, we didn't have a way to help them. And so we started a second company called Brand State U that is online marketing education, self-paced resources to help companies who can't afford an agency but need help. So that's how we kind of balance both sides of the coin.
that's great. That's beautiful. It's interesting. You can't help but see all the different name tags.
I like to speak at conferences. It's my favorite.
I was going to say conferences, trade shows, what industry? Because I mean,
Yeah,
it's beautiful. You've
exactly.
kept them all.
Yeah, it's funny. They used to hang on a lamp over in the corner, but the lamp started to lean. So we did a remodel, and the designer was like, "This lamp is atrocious." So she got these hooks that are for marathon medals, so they're real
Mm,
strong. And I was like,
mhm.
"Well, that feels kind of like cheating because I am not a runner." But those trade shows and conferences, those are big halls. I'm putting in a good solid 10,000 steps to get from one side to the
That's
other. I'll
right.
take it. So they hang now against
That's
the wall.
beautiful.
Yeah. But it's
Very
fun to
well.
go through and remember, oh, I remember speaking at this conference or I remember being a part of that event. It's
Yeah.
a little memory lane.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate the time together. I
Thank
know
you.
this is our first time, and I don't think it's our last. And
Agree.
let's just stay in touch. So when do you think this will end up being
A
rolled
couple
out?
weeks. Christina will follow up with you with dates, data, marketing materials, all the good stuff.
Hmm.
I just show up and
Yeah,
talk. They don't really
we
tell
got
me
it with
anything.
the holidays. We got behind. We decided not to post right before the holidays, so we're like one behind of posting,
Yeah.
and we have two in the can before you. So it'll probably be like 3 weeks, and we do
Hmm.
it every other week. So
What
I may speed it up just to get them out there. I hate for people to wait for content, like if it's related to now.
yeah. How much does video play a role? I realize, again, B2B and what that is versus B2C, et cetera. But how much does video and shows and any of that play a role in any of the
Video
guidance?
is the single most important marketing tool right now.
They say
Even
this.
Well, I'll tell you why it is. Even if you're not doing social media or don't like social media, video is important because it's the way to separate yourself from the pack. So to be a thought leader and to share that leadership through video is how people authentically get to know you. People don't want, no offense to my former career, Hollywood productions and things that look slick and overly produced. They want real. And they want authentic. And video is a way for that to happen because any photo can have some really nice filters on it and look doctored, but video is still pretty real.
Yeah, you still got to get through all the posers out there, but because there's a bunch of them now too. Everybody's a thought leader now. Let me give you my thoughts on the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, it's crazy.
I'm a thought leader. Dial it down.
And you're a good one. And there's a lot of good ones, but there's a lot of, for every one, I think there's 5 bad ones, unfortunately.
Well, it's also everyone's an expert, and for that matter, a social media expert. And it's interesting whether you appreciate or not how I kind of responded to the social, where can they find you kind of thing. It gets pretty exhausting, right? Because as you have to keep up with it. If you're going to start doing it, you just have to keep up. Other than if there's these gaps and stuff, it's like, where'd they go? Whether you have thousands of followers or not, or whatever it is. So, but without a question about video, there's no argument there. It's kind of like the social media platforming and how that plays a role. And we have a production company. Not everything is meant to be polished, but you have to stay on top of how people truly are consuming things. And then of course, those pathways we're going where people already are, and just spend more time in that space in order to get the mileage. But anyway.
Well, and just to clarify, there is an amateur look and there's amateur, and there's a big difference.
Yeah, that's right.
Fair, very fair.
I did it myself, and then I really did it myself, and it's obvious. So, by the way, this whole last section is going in the podcast because this is probably the only thing we talked about on topic the whole time. So I'm gonna find a way to fit it in there.
Whatever works, man. Whatever.
No,
works.
I did enjoy it, Dave, though. We really appreciate your
Dave,
time.
thank you.
And hopefully, if you're ever in Louisiana, make sure you look us up. Open
Absolutely.
invitation.
And either way, can look you up without arriving there. But I actually like it, Louisiana, and it's for another conversation too. But spend some time out of the North Shore and such. And
we're about 2 hours away.
I have an interest in learning more about you guys and capabilities. So
please do, yeah. We'll have to add you to our
some
redo list
information.
too.
Yeah, you're on the list now. Thanks, Dave.
all right, guys.
All right, thank you, man. Have a good day.
All right,
Be
we'll see
safe.
ya.